Hello, everyone. Welcome to the future of engagement, our predictions for the trends that we'll be seeing in 2024. First, a little bit of background on NEWaukee. We are an engagement agency that helps businesses and organizations find new and innovative ways to reach and engage their audiences. My name is Wyatt Tinder. I'm a partner at NEWaukee and I lead our creative services team. I'm joined today by Saratoga Schaefer and Molly Maddis. Saratoga, would you like to introduce yourself first?
For sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Saratoga. I'm the senior digital marketing person over here at NEWaukee. I'm excited to be here today and talk about some 2024 trends. Molly, you want to intro yourself?
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Molly with NEWaukee. I take care of the partnerships and I'm the special projects director.
We are so excited to talk about what we think will impact engagement this new year. There are a lot of dynamics at play in 2024 that each of us as professionals have to pay attention to because they have potential for disrupting our current engagement strategies. Examples of this include misinformation and disinformation online, which will likely be made very polarizing in this election year, and likely made worse by advancements in AI that we saw in 2023. Meanwhile, political events and ongoing conflicts overseas, increasingly extreme weather events, economic uncertainty, AI, and other technological advancements, all of these external forces have the capacity to and likely will impact our engagement efforts on some level. So it's important to stay up to date and vigilant on what's happening in the world and the trends that are happening. Today, we'll be concentrating on 3 areas of audience engagement specifically: community, marketing, and event design. So first, I'm going to toss it over to Saratoga, who is going to be sharing some of our forecasted trends for communities this year.
Awesome. Thank you, Wyatt. So, hi, everyone. We're going to jump right in with the trends you can expect to see in community in 2024. This is not an exhaustive list, but these are the top trends we're expecting to see big moves from. So we can go ahead and get started. So the first trend we want to talk about as we enter into the new year and think about what community will look like in 2024, we have to be aware that a few changes that are happening now have actually been happening for a while. First off, the more niche your community is, the better. A broad audience won't get you anywhere. Hyper-focusing on a niche group is the way to go, and the more niche is actually the better. So broader audiences don't work anymore for a number of reasons. They can feel impersonal or confusing. You don't want people thinking, who is this messaging for, and do I really belong in this group? There are also more cultural fragmentations to consider with different generations, industries, and values. There isn't really like a universal water cooler culture anymore. Instead, it's better to take advantage of all the many new ways you can personalize or individualize communities with technology so that your audience really feels connected, not just to your brand, but to other people within your brand's ecosystem who are like them. So in the next slide, we are going to take a look at a few examples of niche communities built and maintained by companies that connect people with brands while at the same time linking them to an audience that they can relate to. So for example, the photo on the left shows the tag section of the Peloton community where you can join and work out with people who are in those same groups. You're able to search, join, and even create tags that are incredibly niche and follow or friend people who have the same values or interests as you. You can even work out with these people together. Then on the right, you can see an example of Etsy Teams. This is a community that offers the chance to team up, collaborate, or chat with other sellers like yourself. So you can see a couple of examples in this screenshot include a Windy City team, a Made in France team, a vintage team. You get the idea. Anything out there you can kind of find and connect with people. So giving your community the ability to get as niche as possible is a huge benefit. And targeting niche audiences instead of blindly trying to appeal to everyone is actually going to show you more success. So the second community trend we expect to see this year is a big prioritization on connection. And you might be thinking, well, duh, but what does prioritizing connection really mean? Since 2020 and the pandemic start, the way we interact with each other has obviously shifted. The isolation and disconnect many of us experienced during the past few years has transformed into a very real desire to prioritize real, authentic connection. So how do we do this? First off, communities need to be clear about their rules of engagement. What's allowed? What's a big no-no? How can people find or interact with the brand or others who like it, etc. There should be no confusion, no I Spy games for someone to understand what your community is and how it functions. Make it super easy for them. Prioritizing connection also means allowing your members to co-create, build their own spaces within your community, and become leaders there. And at its most obvious level, you can prioritize connection by prioritizing in-person events. Molly's going to get more into the event design aspect of things a little bit later, but it's important to note now that one of the reasons why in-person things are becoming more popular again is because of that desire to connect. You can see all of this done well in a number of networking or peer entrepreneur groups. The brand itself stands as it is, but individuals in the community are encouraged and supported to branch out and host smaller or more personalized events in their city or for their own communities. Finally, the last trend we're anticipating seeing in communities this year is the balance between AI and authenticity. So AI is not new to the scene, but it is new to mainstream. And despite some pushback and concerns, it's clear that AI is here to stay. There are plenty of tools and ways to use AI that can help your communities grow and thrive, but it's also very important to consider a balance. Make sure you're still showing your human side while leveraging AI to manage your audiences. This is something that's going to change a lot based on the industry you're in. So you have to have some awareness of where you and your brand stand within the whole AI discourse. So for example, there has been quite a bit of uproar lately in the artist community because brands such as Wacom, who makes digital drawing tablets, were caught using AI to market their products. Using AI to market to actual human artists is not the smartest move and will rightfully be called out. This is not the way you want to try to connect with your community because it comes across as completely inauthentic. However, if you look at certain Discord channels using AI bots to moderate and remove users who are inappropriate or harassing people, or who use gamification to give people awards, that's different. You can kind of see this in Reddit too, where bots exist to entertain or provide information to community users. So AI can be used to make your life easier in managing these communities, answering FAQs, helping to brainstorm content, directing people to certain resources, etc. Just make sure there is a human hand involved so that people still associate your community with authenticity and humanness. And just be super aware of your niche. Using AI for creative, geared towards creative, is not going to go over well. But sharing advancements in AI capability with a tech-focused audience is quite different. So it's all relative to your specific community.
Thanks, Saratoga. Now we're going to discuss some trends we're forecasting for marketing in 2024. You'll see a thread through the next 4 trends, which to us kind of continues on what Saratoga was talking about in community, really about humanizing brands and making them feel authentic. First, let's talk about social media decluttering. If you had any apprehension, everyone on this call, feel free to exhale. Our team is here to give you permission to sunset some of your accounts. A new year is a perfect time for a brand audit and to look closely at what platforms are serving you best. We think this year, for a variety of factors, a growing number of brands will choose to cull down the number of platforms they are on to select the few that serve them the best. Social media should not be a set it and forget it part of your marketing strategy. And oftentimes, marketing teams stretch themselves too thin by trying to keep up on every platform, which in turn makes the content feel less personal or tailored. Meanwhile, platforms like X are risky at best for advertisers and seeing increasingly poor performance. Find what works for you and for your organization, and don't be afraid to add back some old school traditional means of marketing to your mix, like out of home and sponsorships. Of course, brands are looking at KPIs like brand education, awareness, impressions, conversions to sales, etc. And these are important, undoubtedly. But to audiences online, the people who are viewing your content, they just want to be entertained. If all you are doing as a brand is educating, or selling, you aren't really giving folks a reason to fall in love with you and to follow your organization online. More and more, for brands to stand out, they need to bring a personality and an entertainment factor for their audience. Trend jacking is an example of this. Brands use trending events and memes to connect with their audience, tapping into conversations that are already happening online to bring themselves to the forefront. We think this will be even more critical this year and even more of an opportunity for brands as TVs and social media feeds will be bogged down by election ads and news. Fun is what's going to break through the noise. And here we just have two examples of what trend jacking looks like. Netflix using this kind of notes app list that was a trend for a while, and then Duolingo, as soon as the Mickey Mouse came into domain, they did their own little Mickey Mouse inspired illustration. Similarly, we predict that brands that focus on fun texture, vibrant colors, and a human touch will stand out from the crowd. This includes loose illustration styles, hand-drawn elements, heavy grain, essentially almost anti-digital in aesthetic, which feels like a reaction against a lot of the AI-generated kind of like smooth images that we've been seeing. In what will likely become a sea of AI-generated content, designs that feel uniquely human will resonate. And continuing with the trend of humanizing brands and making them feel more authentic, we think that brands will focus more on quality over quantity when selecting creators to market their products or services. Instead of one message about a brand posted by a ton of different creators, instead consider a few creators posting more frequent messaging, really kind of let the brand become embedded in their organic content. Not only should the influencer messaging feel organic to the content that they would normally produce, there should be a strong cadence to the messaging so that viewers see the brand multiple times. And if you're thinking about doing some influencer marketing, consider doing a test project with an influencer first to see if they're the right fit for your brand before expanding to a longer-term engagement. Consider offering incentives or rewards based on performance as well. And here are just a couple of examples of really integrated partnerships. So, cooking themed Instagram, partnering with M&Ms, a more home and lifestyle duo that is, partnering with Yankee Candle, and a travel photographer partnering with tourism. These are all things that really make sense and are kind of embedded in the content that they would normally produce. And now I'm going to pass it over to Molly.
All right. Thank you, Wyatt and Saratoga. I am just going to scratch the surface on a few trends that you might see in 2024 when it comes to events and producing these experiences. All right. Let's start with sustainability, but for real. Why is this coming to the forefront? So, as most of us know, carbon emissions are a major contributor to influencing climate change and global warming. So, if we recognize and address our impact on the environmental footprint, we can do our part to conserve resources, energy, improve public health through cleaner and safer living environments. Through an increase in sustainability at events, we can choose to involve and benefit our local communities, which then in turn involves promoting DE&I, supporting charitable causes, and addressing social issues. There are economic benefits that include increasing cost savings, which of course we all want, therefore increasing brand value, company image, and client retainment. And of course, it benefits future generations by ensuring their resources are not depleted, ecosystems are preserved, and communities can thrive. So, since Gen Z is often characterized by their strong awareness of social and environmental issues, a desire for positive change, and a preference for sustainable practices, their attendance is more prevalent at these more conscious events. So, where do we even begin? Here are a few tweaks that we can make. First, choose a venue that already has eco-friendly practices in place. For example, consider locations that have easy access to public transportation, that provide bus routes or how to get their information via biking, walking, and encourage carpooling. For Milwaukee, as the city of festivals, which we're known for, and where we're located, we definitely host a plethora of outdoor events over the summer as well, and that can be a sustainable practice if done mindfully. Which brings me to waste reduction and consumption. Hello, Amazon returns. With this one, we can choose caterers who prioritize locally sourced, organic, and sustainably produced food. We can have recycling and composting stations and select caterers and venues that already are practicing, which there are a number of in the city. We can choose to minimize single-use plastics by using real dishware and cutlery and glassware. Skip the straws, which is an easy one, yet sometimes controversial. And then really encourage attendees to use reusable items such as water bottles by having water stations instead. So feel free to make these green initiatives and partnerships known to your attendees, both throughout the event, but also ahead of time in event promotions, which sounds like a win-win. Another super impactful and easy shift would be to a paperless approach, which could be done in a few ways that we've seen. You can minimize paper usage by opting for digital invites, digital programming and agenda via TV screens or projectors, forego any unnecessary event materials. And then for those event materials that are necessary, perhaps print these items without dates and locations so that you can reuse them the next year. Just using recycled or sustainably sourced paper is a great idea when you do choose to print. So lastly, we can be conscientious of takeaway items. So let's be realistic about what people actually want and will use. How many Stanley water bottles and Yeti tumblers do we really need as an individual? And then how many is too many before we're not doing good anymore? So we can consider recycled, upcycled, biodegradable items, buying fair trade and local gifts. We can put forth just a little more effort to think outside the box and then make a big difference by starting small and then going from there. I think we all share the desire to make a positive impact in what we're doing. So we don't think of what we do as just another event. And I don't think we want our community to either. All right. Next up, trend number 2, we have large scale installations. Why is this an upcoming trend that we're seeing? I think for obvious reasons, they offer unique and engaging experiences that captivate audiences and attendees and draw them away from their phones and take them to more or less another place to escape for a while, which I think is what we're all looking for. So, rinse and repeat events are tired. People want new, novel experiences that stand out and that are different from the ordinary. So, if we can produce more spectacles that leave a lasting impression, we'll find the love of entertainment and that it's just an exciting experience. Installations, light displays, immersive environments all create a visually and physically engaging atmosphere with that multi-sensory, which is just like a wonderful mood booster. By making these installations at an event memorable, which can be good or bad, but we're aiming for good memories. Attendees are likely to remember long after the event concludes. They'll associate it with you and your client's brand and company and enhance the overall impact and value of the event, which will absolutely create an uptick in social media buzz and allow event visibility and promotion long after the event is over. Along with social media, leaning into technology and its possibilities, such as the touch screens, motion sensors, AR and VR, LED lights and displays, drones, live streaming, robotics, AI, and more. All of these features enhance attendee engagement and can differentiate all large scale installations in a competitive event landscape. Lastly, we all know people love a good theme. So the combination of visual appeal, engagement opportunities, and the creation of memorable moments can all contribute to the success and popularity of events. So here's just a couple examples that NEWaukee has done recently. We have on the left our Clover Corner, which was our Fiserv Forum activation at the Milwaukee Night Market. Then we have on the top right, the North Shore Banks Be Kind branch that had local painters and tent activities painting those Be Kind letters, which created a lot of buzz. And then on the lower right, we have North Shore Bank Southside Dining Week Hand Pie Fest this year that had an interactive cooking pop-up activation for kids to really get in there and play with. So those are just a few that we've done recently, and we have a lot more in store for this upcoming year. Next slide. The third trend we're going to touch on today is spending less time on content, more time at networking while at conferences. So a big reason why we think people go to conferences in the first place is to meet people. So why not give them more time to do that? As Saratoga mentioned, especially post 2020, people have had enough screen time, enough sitting, a lot of isolation, and we all attend conferences because we want to stop that. We want new ideas. We want leads, collaborations, partnerships, community vibes, connection with like-minded individuals. And we also want professional development that lasts beyond the conferences. Lately, networking might be perceived as directly contributing to these tangible outcomes compared to attending content sessions, as we're consistently seeing attendees exchanging their information and then syncing up with one another on social media like LinkedIn. But we, of course, aren't going to get rid of all content and at the conferences. So regarding content, our attention spans are getting shorter. If we plan to have more workshops and speakers, hands-on, more niche, tailored breakout sessions, more personalized experiences where we can, that's the key. And then, as Wyatt said, quality is over quantity. Finding some sort of balance with these content-rich sessions to check the box for learning and skill development while also allowing various network opportunities to cater to diverse audience preferences will absolutely lead to increased attendance, and that's our ultimate goal. Wyatt, I think you're up.
Thanks, Molly.
You bet.
I just wanted to share a couple of additional trends we expect to see more broadly this year. A rise in artificial assistance. Saratoga touched on that a little bit in the community section, but again, using AI to kind of automate some of the more, I guess, mundane parts of community and marketing roles, and the ways that you can leverage that. Updates and changes in virtual meetings to make them even more robust for hybrid workers. Digital transactions taking over the B2B marketplace. News impacts on social media during this election year. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but that is going to have a lot of impacts on those of us who work in the marketing space, hypervigilance to kind of the content that we're promoting and how it might go through its like regulation or moderation. Just the cost of ads, especially during an election cycle. What might happen to some of our like CPMs. So just thinking through that as we go through this election year. And those are just a couple of trends that we expect to see kind of more broadly. I put this in the chat, but we really want to hear from all of you as well. What trends do you predict in 2024? So if you have any trends that you're watching, feel free to add them into the chat. And otherwise, we have a little bit of time for questions. So if anyone has any questions or feedback on trends that you're seeing, feel free to ask us now. See a comment from Angela. A focus on quality of attendees and their experience versus quantity of attendees. Definitely see that. I think those sort of niche experiences are going to be really important. I think, yeah, focusing on who you want to attend your events is really important, and it allows you to really tailor the experience. See a comment from Mike. DE&I and ESG will pivot slightly away from political movements with the election year. Some companies will lean in. Yeah, I think that's, it being an election year, we can't stress how much that's going to impact kind of every element of what we are doing, even if it's not necessarily like obvious right away, but it will have an impact. See a question from Amanda. Do you have any insight on how to make installation sustainable? Molly or Toga might have some thoughts on that, but I definitely think where you can reuse elements is going to be really important. One thing that we notice sometimes is that brands will use a special logo or use the date or something on large, installation materials. And so just focus on what aspects of your installation might be reusable. You can always look at sustainable vendors, but also look at the broader installation, if you will, and see if there are components of it that maybe you could use that are like smaller in other ways. So
absolutely. I'm in that. Yeah, those are great ideas, Wyatt. And I'm not sure if you're located in Milwaukee, but I know that here we've been touring a ton of different event spaces that rent items, rent furniture, rent signage, all sorts of different things and I think you can really make installations pretty incredible without necessarily developing something that can't be reused in one way or another, or taking pieces of perhaps like some motorized unit and then using it in another capacity for another event. But I believe all over they have options like this. It's just a matter of reaching out and working locally with people.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Mitch's question here. I know it's a bit off topic, but how much is mental health slash wellness going to play into what our community looks like? I don't think it's off topic at all. I think that's a great point. Mental health and wellness is definitely been on the rise, and I think we're going to continue to see that this year. People are really prioritizing that in a way that has not happened much before, not only in creating more events and spaces that are welcoming and safe in regards to wellness, but also in giving people more opportunities to sort of explore that side of things. I think the pandemic also really shifted that, in that we are talking way more about mental health than I think we ever have before. And that is definitely going to remain a priority, I think, in our communities, and the communities that have extra support or resources for wellness things are going to thrive.
Yeah, and I'll add to even to what we were saying about niche events, niche communities. I think Angela mentioned in the chat earlier, but focusing on less attendees, I think between less attendees, less content, and more open space, I feel like all of these things kind of combine to, increase feelings of sort of like psychological safety, intimacy, this feeling of kind of authenticity and openness at events that all kind of plays into this conversation more broadly. I'm just reading, we had a comment from Martha in the chat. Offering opportunities for volunteering as part of supported company programs is beneficial. It's really interesting. Mel is adding something to the chat. This photo shows an interactive wall in the foyer of an event I went to. It gave attendees a natural place to congregate and have a conversation. I also asked what they were doing with it, and it was going to be taken and used in an office, maybe the chamber, if I'm remembering correctly. That is really interesting. I think we are seeing these sort of installations at a lot of events, and that's a good example of a way that it can be reused, a sort of tangible takeaway from an event that then can live on in an office space. That's so interesting. And what a great way to get people networking too.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about some of these trends is the way you can combine them. So you're using this sort of community audience-based thing of like, this is how we're going to congregate and talk to each other. And you're leaning into the sustainability thing because it's something that is not just going to be used once and thrown away. So definitely feel free to like combine all these different trends and make them work for you in the way that makes most sense for you and your brand.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I think for me, and when we were talking with our team about the differences between over the past few years about these trends, are really that it comes down to 2024 feels like really doing more what matters. So not doing more with less, not doing more in general, but just like really targeting the right people, the right groups, the right niche environments to really surprise people and intrigue people and get them engaged again and feeling good about what we're doing.
Wonderful. Well, if no one else has any questions in the chat, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. Today's event has been recorded and we'll be sending out a follow-up shortly. We hope that you all will connect with us and keep the conversation going on LinkedIn. Please, just add myself, Molly, and Saratoga on LinkedIn. We'd love to keep the conversation continuing. Thank you so much for your time this morning, and we hope you all have a great day.